If you're experiencing any degree of hair loss, hair thinning, hair shedding, and breaking hair as a gentleman, I'm going to share with you some natural DHT blocking resources to invigorate your hair strength, invigorate the hair follicle production, and increase the strength and vitality of your scalp and your hair so you can have the best, most luxurious, thick locks on your head. Stay tuned for this informative video. This is a really crazy statistic. For all of you gentlemen watching today's video right now, if you are age 50 or older, 50% of you have experienced some degree of hair loss, hair shedding, hair thinning, receding hairline, or balding. That is an insane statistic. And for gentlemen younger than 50, your hair loss begins in your 20s and your 30s. So this is great for all of my gentlemen in all age ranges who want to thicken, strengthen, fortify, and invigorate their hair follicle production. I'm going to break out some of the reasons why you could be experiencing hair loss. And despite what you might have been told to look at your mother's dad and your hair is going to look just like his, maybe there is no hair, or his receding hairline is gone all the way back here, there's a balding spot, that actually is not truly the case. But we do link a lot of hair loss to polygenetics. So a lot of times our genes play a role. If you're interested in genes and our health, I'm going to share with you an invitation. I welcome all of you to join my book club. I share details about a particular book that breaks out, we can actually control our DNA and our genetic predisposition. So despite what you've been told, the reality is that there are a lot of different factors at play, particularly stress, hormonal imbalance, as well as something that many of you might not have heard about. It's called DHT sensitivity. DHT stands for dihydrotestosterone. It's actually synthesized by your body. In some men, there is a greater conversion or enzyme reaction that converts testosterone into DHT. For others, it's just a sensitivity where even if you have normal DHT levels, your hair follicles, for whatever reason, it might be stress, environmental stress, it could be the type of hair conditioner, soap, it could be from an assortment of different variables. But either way, your DHT is something that we need to look at blocking. Now, is this a blanket statement? No, it varies per person, and I always recommend that gentlemen who do have any receding of the crown hair, maybe patched baldness, or starting to get what we call male pattern baldness, that's kind of affecting the whole head. It's best if you run your labs, run your reproductive hormones, run your testosterone, run your DHT, run your DHEA, which is a hormone produced by our adrenal glands that's often linked with stress. And a lot of times DHEA will be really high for gentlemen and they have really low testosterone, and that alone could be a factor. So DHT sensitivity affects men and women. So I know a lot of my female viewers are watching today, and many women experience female pattern baldness. They also experience receding hairlines, crown thinning hair across the board, maybe shedding, and a decrease of that hair strength, and might also experience where their hair is breaking a little bit. DHT sensitivity affects men and women, and it also affects us differently. So men, it's going to affect you a lot differently than it will women, and the reasons behind that are different from women. For any of you ladies or men who have women who experience this, comment down below. Let me know if you want me to do DHT and women's hair. But this video is focused on men. You have DHT sensitivity and or elevated DHT levels. What happens is you have your hair growth cycle shortened. So overall, we have 3 phases to hair growth. We have a growing phase, a resting phase, and then we have what we call shedding phase. Now, those phases should have different time cycles. Like the growing phase could be 3 to 6 years. You could have the resting phase be shorter, and the shedding tends to be shorter than that. But if you have sensitivity to DHT, you have stressors, you might have some alopecia, some bacteria, some fungus, allergies on the scalp, that can greatly impact the cycling of hair growth, hair resting, and hair shedding. It can accelerate sometimes the growth to a rest to a shed in a shorter period of time. So one of the things that's a factor if you do have DHT sensitivity or elevated DHT levels, and you can always test for that so you know for sure, what you can do is incorporate several different items into your daily routine. I always recommend treating hair loss from within first. So I actually love to recommend the Care Health. They have a male hair DHT blocking and Kercysteine complex. This actually is the male partner to the female supplement that I detailed. If you're interested in the female hair video that I did, I'll link there. I'll put a link up there and down in the description box. But Care Health also has a male product, which I want to detail to you today because it does reduce your hair loss. It reduces the breakage that you might experience. Care Health products are great in enhancing your hair strength, reducing the hair loss, but also bolstering the amount of hair that you have. It actually focuses in on that growth phase so that you can balance out and keep the majority of your hair in your head in growth phase, not in resting, and definitely shortens up the time that you're shedding. So I'm going to share with you some of the ingredients. They have their own patented product called Kercysteine. Essentially, that ingredient is hydrolized keratin. Keratin is what you find in hair and nails, and in animals, that's what you find in their claws. That particular nutrient is really great for the strength. It's the protein kind of barrier to the hair, particularly in the follicle. It keeps that hair follicle wider. Because one of the things I didn't mention in that 3-part cycle, as that hair follicle moves from the growth phase into the resting phase, the hair follicle, the size actually decreases. And then when it moves to shedding, it decreases even more. When you have the DHT sensitivity or influence of DHT actually decreases the size of the follicle, and a lot of times the follicle just completely stops working. It literally goes into what we call a hibernative state. That hibernative state is what we see as hair loss. It's what we register as receding hairlines. It's what we register as balding. And this again can apply to men and women and even children. I work with some children, they've got like a little bald alopecia spot. And there might be scarring also in that hair follicle just from the intensity of the DHT. So blocking DHT is really also an important complement to strengthening that hair follicle and actually increasing the size of the hair follicle by strengthening the hair itself that's coming out. And that's where the Kercysteine really has its benefit. The other thing it has is pine trunk extract and grape seed extract. Those two nutrients are really great antioxidants. The pine trunk is actually what we call a Beta-Sitosterol. It's fantastic for blocking DHT. That's a really wonderful DHT blocker. This is really great, gentlemen, because this particular nutrient extends beyond your hair and can actually have a positive impact on your prostate health. If you are familiar with any of my prostate health videos, if you haven't watched them, I'll link over here, link up there in the description. Please do watch those because there's often a DHT hormone link to an enlargement of your prostate. There's also a testosterone connection to an enlarged prostate. And what we find is the beta-sitosterols will actually help minimize the growth and expansion of the prostate. So while it's supportive of the hair follicle, minimizing the impact of DHT and scarring and reducing the size of the hair follicle, it actually will help reduce the prostate gland in and of itself. So that's really great. The grape seed extract is very rich and nourishing in antioxidants, but it also will help defend your hair and the hair follicles from environmental stressors, which is really great, as well as the stress of DHT to minimize scarring, because scarring, again, can cause permanent damage to the hair follicle. So Care Health has added biotin, some of the B vitamins. They also have zinc and copper, good nutrients just to really support your hair production. So that is the internal resource to limiting your sensitivity to DHT, blocking essentially your DHT so that you are less sensitive, that you have less of that transition from grow phase to the in phase of shedding, and sometimes you just bypass that resting phase. The next phase is to incorporate topicals, and that's via shampoos. I love to incorporate what we call DHT blocking shampoos. And this is a huge, huge complement. So you deal with DHT internally and you can also deal with it externally. Part of the external use of shampoo and conditioner is to minimize the external environmental factors. I love the DHT blocking because you get that hydrolized keratin. You also get aloe, you get camellia, which by the way, if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, please do. I posted a picture of my camellia plant. It's in full bloom, and camellia is a really good hydrating, super powerful antioxidant. It comes from a Japanese bush that grows these beautiful blooms, and they extract the oil. And the oil is great for your face. You can use it in your hair, and that's one of the things that is the ingredient in here. Also, you're gonna find rosemary in a lot of these products. So those are very, very helpful. So this brand, Shiny Leaf, is really great. They include a lot of the normal ingredients that you're gonna find in DHT blocking shampoos and conditioners, but they take it a step further. And I wanna share with you one of the really powerful ingredients that you're gonna find in this. It's called Thymus Sapilum Mongolicus extract. That sounds like the crazy thing. You're like, what? That is an extreme DHT blocker. That particular extract is very, very beneficial. So this shampoo is sourced and made here in the US, which is great. So you don't have to worry about any weird ingredients that might be in your shampoo and conditioner. And it's also paraben-free, sulfate-free. That's really, really key. You want to keep clean ingredients in your hair care products and your shampoos, your mousses. You want to minimize that environmental impact that might cause additional stress, that might cause a weakening of that hair follicle and decrease in the size and just generate more stress than you really need. So at the end of the day, gentlemen, if you experience what we consider DHT sensitivity, elevated DHT levels, or any degree of hair loss, receding hairline, it's really, really essential that we stop the smothering of DHT on your hair follicles. And blocking DHT incorporates internal supplementation as well as external via shampoos and conditioners. Now, I've had comments before on past videos where people will say, well, it's just food, you've got to change your food, and that's the only way for you to really incorporate and minimize your situation. But I'm going to tell you, this is a complex situation. And how many of you, just comment down below, let me know if you feel comfortable, how many of you have gone through an assortment of different treatments? Like I have folks, gentlemen and women, who've done hair plugs and they have had injections, and you can do PRP. I didn't mention that before, but PRP is very powerful when you combine it with a supplement that really targets DHT blocking, as well as the skincare or hair care products. But it can be really, really challenging just to get beyond just that hormonal imbalance and just the sensitivity, because there is a genetic component. While I'm a total food first naturopath, sometimes you just can't eat your way into a reduction of your DHT sensitivity. Sometimes your genetic factors and maybe previous stressors or damage to your hair or scarring or whatever it might be that has gotten us to this stage, we can't always reverse that with food, but we can nourish your body internally, externally, and we can start to limit the degree of hair loss and follicular decrease or hibernation of your follicles. But sometimes if your follicle is in full hibernation, it's very hard to reverse that. And that's where I want to be really, really clear and transparent and set the right expectation. Will taking these products be like the chia pet, if you will, for your head? No, it's not. But if you do start to experience it, especially for you gentlemen in your 20s and 30s, you're at a prime time in your life to start to implement this. If you're in your 50s and you're starting to get some hair loss, this is a great time. If you're in your 70s and you've got some balding, it can at least maximize the hair growth, add in some PRP treatments, and see it, with the strengthening that you're using via internal and external, you might actually get a rejuvenation of that hair follicle. But I want to really, really be clear, because I don't want to set any false expectations or false promises, but I want to educate. And that, at the end of the day, is my focus. So I hope you found this helpful. Comment down below. I'm choosing lucky winners to win our Natural Health Resources holiday ornament. Stay tuned for tomorrow's Vlogmas video.